Hello everyone, welcome to lesson 3 of C programming on the Mac. In this tutorial I'm going to be running through the default program that Apple gives you when you start a new project in Xcode. So let's get started. So first off we're going to run this program, see what it actually does. So run, console, build and run, and as you can see here our output is hello world. So just a little tidbit here before I actually dive into the whole program. Printf is what is actually giving this output. So as you can see here, we have hello world in the parentheses, and that's what it prints as output. So if you can think of printf as in printing to paper, this is just printing to the console. Okay? So it prints whatever you give it. So now I'm going to start at the top of the program and explain. So here, this is known as a pound include. It's also a preprocessor directive. So basically what that means is that when you compile this program, when the computer goes to run the code, it'll know, okay, we're going to have this library called standard input output, and we are going to use it later on in the program. So when this is a library, and basically what this is doing is just saying standard input output library is going to be used. Now a library has different functions in it, and printf is one of those functions. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it a little bit. Printf gives output to the console, as you can see, output, and standard input output implies that it has input from the console, so you can actually type in and take input, or just output something to the console. And there are many different functions within this library that do different things. Printf is one of them, and you will learn about other ones later on. So that's just that. Okay, you'll get this soon enough. And if it's not clear yet, it will become clear. Okay, so that's that. Now here we have a main function. Now the main function is just it's what the computer is going to run first, basically. So anything that has your main function is always going to be the thing to run. If you had a different name for this, it wouldn't necessarily run it first. So it always looks for the main function. I'm just not going to talk about these things right now. It's just more complicated than you really need to know, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect you, so why bother? And then at the end of this, you can see this is a curly brace. So you have left bracket, right bracket, whatever you want to call it. This whole thing is one function. Xcode kind of does a nice thing right here. As you can see, that right there is your function. So anything in between that, this is the main function, and in this function you will do this stuff. Okay, so that's that. This third line right here is a comment. So a comment, all it does is it's not actually read by the computer, it's just for the person itself. So let's say I have some kind of function or method that does let's see, adds two numbers. So if I want to make a comment, I just say adds two numbers, and then that's my comment. The computer won't care about it, it doesn't touch it, and it won't matter. So you can, with this double slash here, you can go all the way to the end of this line, and that will be one comment, the computer doesn't care. Okay, now if you want to do multiple lines, you have to do slash and then a star. And as you can see, it's looking for the end point of this comment, because obviously we don't have to have this whole thing as a comment, because then it would be pointless. So then we could just say whatever, I don't have anything to say, and then you just do a star and a slash. So that's good if you want to explain a big block of code. That's how you do multiple lines, and you can keep spanning, obviously, blah blah blah. Alright, that's the idea of that. Okay. And moving on to this next line, printf, I have covered it a little bit, but I'm going to go in a little more detail here. So you may wonder, first off, well, why do we need these quotation marks at the end? And what's the point of that? Why don't we just go zoop and zoop? And then we could printf like that. I'll get to that. And also this \n, what does that mean? Okay, so now that I've taken the quotation marks out of it, if I go to run this, it's going to give me an error saying that hello is undeclared. Reason being is because if you don't have the quotation marks, with the quotation marks, it thinks it's a string of text. Without it, it thinks it's a variable and part of something that you've defined somewhere else. So we'll get onto variables and other things later on, but for now, just know that for printfs, you always need the quotation marks because that defines that it's a string of text and that's what you're printing. Okay, so second part of this, just let me compile and run this so I can save it. Alright, so now if you look at this \n, what this implies is that you are doing a return, like the return key on your keyboard. So if I go to do another printf statement, and now I say second line, now when I go to run this, you'll see that it will print hello world, and then it will return, and it will do second line. And I can do as many of these \n's as I want. Alright, and then if I compile this, as you can see, it'll do a bunch of returns, depending on how many returns you put in, and then it'll print the result. Okay, so that's \n. And there are different things. Basically, the backslash just ignores the next letter, but it doesn't ignore it, just doesn't print it, I should say. And there are different things. There are \t as well, which will tab, like a tab key on your keyboard, tab the text over. Anyway, that's all you really need to know for that for now. And this last line of code is a little more complicated than everything else here. Just to understand, really don't worry about it, but I'll try to explain it here, but it's not important. Just all your main functions will generally end with return 0. Because what this is basically saying is that when this program's done, when you return 0, that basically means that you have exited and you're not going to try to return a value. Now later on I'll teach you about different functions and how they return different values. But it's not helpful for when you're doing this main function here because the program's done. It doesn't want to do anything else. So you just return 0, it's done. It doesn't want to give any more information. So therefore you just return 0. And in this console window you can also see the program exited with a status value of 0. Okay, if I enter a different number in here, then it does cause problems. So for your main functions, generally you're always going to have return 0. Alright, so I hope this covered most of what your questions are on programming and how the structure of the actual program works. If you like this tutorial, I will be making many more, and if you're kind of confused on where we are now, it's probably because you didn't watch the other videos that I made before this. This is the third lesson. Anyway, please subscribe to the channel if you like these programming tutorials, and I'll have hopefully many more. Alright, see ya.